This is Aner Dyfan Teaches from the Depths, simple plane tutorial utilising yaw to turn. So this is a simple plane shape. It's not actually any combat capable vessel, but it has similar sort of qualities to what a number of planes would have. So it has a nice powerful engine and some fuel. Unfortunately, it does not have propulsion yet. So first thing I want to do is align the rear propulsion with the centre of mass or centre of drag. Ideally, I want to align it with the centre of mass here, because if I place the jet engines too low, say here, as this pushes forward, it will torque around the centre of mass here and pitching the nose of the plane upwards. Whereas if I place the thrust here, it will go through the centre of mass, preventing it from nosediving or pitching. So if I put the thrust at the top, it will force the back up and the nose down. So as always, try and align everything up with the centre of mass. So just going to place the jet engine there. With this one, the jet thrust comes from this central block here. Next, I require actual turning thrusters. So these are going to go at the front, as far away from the centre of mass as possible. I won't need the large jet engine. I think a couple of small ones will probably do. And they will now yaw the plane left and right, so long as I have it all set up correctly. Then I require ones for the pitch at the front, otherwise it won't pitch up when moving. And it'd be an idea to also have some to pitch it down, so if it does pitch up, it can correct itself in an adequate length of time, rather than just waiting for its mass to equalise itself. So in order for this to function, I need to place an AI. I'm going to put a chair down as well, so I can actually sit in that and link to the aircraft as quickly as possible. And then I require a AI card slot. The card slot is just going to be connected to that and have the aerial AI connected to it. So this is now activated, trying to maneuver for me, which is brilliant. Unfortunately, I haven't set up the settings to make it yaw properly. So what I need to do? I need to set the angle of deviation before we roll the turn at 180. That means it will now only yaw to turn. It won't won't roll the wings around and then pull up to turn like a real world plane. So if I actually just unlock this, it should now begin to fly. Because it's pitching up and pitching down, but it's not flying particularly well. The rear of the craft is not staying upright very well at all. That's partly because of how heavy it is at the rear. Got the centre of mass here, so it's trying to sit around the centre of mass, but these thrusters are not correcting it quickly enough. So the way to correct that is add some thrust to the rear. The ones at the rear need to be set to thruster reverse, since they are behind the centre of mass. If they're in front, they are normal thrusters. If they're behind, they need to be set to thruster reverse. And all these settings are still okay. Just checking the altitude, which is 75, so it's a little bit high. This is partly because of the way it's pitching up and down, it's not controlling itself especially well, but this will turn okay. I think as you hear, it's turning around and getting to the correct orientation. Unfortunately, it's not sitting very stably. It's pitching up a lot at the beginning, and also has a little bit of a tendency to fall down. Part of that is because I have no roll thrusters. So let's go on here and correct for roll. So as it begins to roll, it can't correct that since it has no roll thrusters. So let's add some on. Again, want them to be in line with the centre of mass and as far away as possible, and set them to the roll left and right hand side respectively. So now when I release, it should now correct itself for when it's trying to roll. Still a little bit low at the rear though. the ship falling down at the rear is partly because it's not moving fast enough, and so it's actually just trying to fall out of the sky and then it's correcting itself. If I make it faster, it will actually help push the plane into a more straight line orientation to be in line with the drag. And this is without aerofoils. If I actually added in wings, these do actually help provide lift the faster you are, but they are not especially good. So if I just add some lift on here, these will help just provide a little bit of lift, but the lift is at the back of the centre of mass. You really want the centre of lift to be in line with the centre of mass. So let's just remove them at the rear there. That will now just help lift up the centre of mass, forming automatically. The final correction for this can be made utilising a PID. It's not always a good idea to utilise PID systems in aeroplanes, because an aeroplane which is stable is more easy to hit. So having this slightly bouncy movement makes it a lot harder to hit. If I add a PID and set this to pitch control and make sure it actually is controlling the pitch rather than just sitting there normally, you can see it's leveled up, but the whole movement pattern has now stabilized. It's also falling into the water. So what happened there is the PID took control of the thrusters to correct the pitch, which meant that none of the thrusters were being utilized to keep the aeroplane up in the air. So again, something which needs to be utilized with the PID is that can occur. It's an easy fix. What I need to do is add a couple of jet engines in line with the centre of mass. See, I can't line it up exactly the centre of mass, so I've put one either side and set these ones to main. These will activate to keep the plane up in the air. So I can add the PID back on again, the general purpose PID. Set that there, set that to pitch, increase the gain a little bit, reduce the response so it actually happens at a fair rate, and there we go. No longer falling as quickly, still falling a little bit, but this probably isn't quite enough for us to keep it airborne. Let's just add those on for a couple more main thrust. So now this is a lot more stable, but that does mean it's easier to hit with a lot of armaments. It's still not perfectly stable, but it's considerably more stable than it was. And this is a sort of movement pattern which is useful as a sort of bombing or torpedo platform, even one with guns on, because then it can actually aim at its target more readily. If it's too bouncy, yes, it makes it harder to be hit, but it also makes it shooting at other things a lot harder. An alternative to having your thrusters is have actual tailplanes. So I place some tailplanes there, and that means I can actually remove these jet engines at the fore here, and this should still allow it to turn correctly. So just order it to turn around, and it is turning on its own, utilising the tailplanes there. The more I have, the better it will be. For some craft, extreme turning is required. So in order to facilitate this, I want to have a thrust in line with the centre of mass, like there, at the front and rear of the craft. The ones at the rear being in thruster reverse, like so. Just set them both up. And that means that now a much tighter turning circle can be obtained. As you can see here, it's being able to turn very quickly despite moving at a fair rate already. So it's still going at 60 meters per second in a very tight little circle here. So lastly, I'm just checking to ensure that it can change altitude. So let's set it to go down to around about 100. Yep, it's going down. That's because I'm using the AI there. It's going down to the correct altitude. That's about right. AI has a little bit of a tendency to adjust roughly how high it goes, and then instead of going up, yes, that is all going up correctly. The pitch and that thrusters are functioning well, so it is actually turning up and getting to those locations in good order. And that is about it for the basic plane tutorial utilising yaw. The next one is a basic plane tutorial utilising roll, which will be using a very similar setup to this, but that will be coming out soon. But until then, I'm out. Goodbye!